Evening. How are you doing? Yeah, all's good. I'm just going to be painting away. I haven't really got any plans to finish this, just kind of going to be painting away and talking about fur detail and eyes and just how I do them. Let me know if you can see the picture okay and if you can hear it okay. I've got a different microphone and a different lighting today. Awesome, thank you. Kind of never know when I set these things up if it's it looks so good. It looks okay when I'm doing it, but I don't know what you can kind of see through the cameras. So yes, it's good to get other people's opinions. Are you still doing your lives? I keep glancing back over here because my reference photo's here, and also comments and stuff are just to the side of it. So when I'm looking at the reference photo, I can also see comments which come through. Oh. Oh, I hope your wife's health improves. And you never know, you might be able to get to do some lives at some point in the future. I think I watched quite a few of your lives, so they're really fun to watch. Yeah, it's always difficult trying to find where's best to do airbrushing because it's not something you can really do in a house. I know some people do, but then you've got to go down the route of getting it the fumes extracted and bits of paint atomizing and going everywhere. It seems to cover everything. I'd rather be outside in the shed or building. I think during the lockdown I tried to do a little bit from my house, and it was just really hard work. Yeah, if people haven't airbrushed, they don't know how far this paint actually goes. If I'm not doing a live, I've got a mask on because you just end up breathing quite a bit in. And yeah, even in the studio, it gets everywhere. I've got pictures which I've just got like sat around, which I've done previously, and I'll leave them lying around. And then when I go back to do them, they're all like covered in little bits of paint. So it's amazing how far the paint from an airbrush can get. So what I did in my last live was anyone who wrote a comment, I'll chat away. I'll chat about anything airbrushing, anything arty. And then when no one's chatting, I'll just kind of tell you about what I'm doing and about how I randomly throw things at the paper to try and make a picture. I've tried to kind of get a bit of it started before I went live. So down here I've got a bit of fur already progressing on, but like bits around here I've left it as just a sketch still. So there's like bits of the picture in different stages. Done about probably about 2 hours on it, so it's been quite slow at it really. It's got some cool fur patterns, so pick this one because look at that. That's one of the fur patterns. It's just really cool. So I thought I'll give that a go. So when I do fur, build it up in layers. So I start off with a blotchy background. So most of this here, I've already put the blotchy background in. So I need to do the cheek in a bit of a blotchy background. And so I'm not trying to put any fur in to start with. It's just building up the tones behind the fur. No problem. Thanks for popping on. So yeah, a lot of this hare's fur is in diamond shapes or arrow shapes. So I'm trying to create like the background without making it look like fur, to just have that shape to it. And the only thing I'm kind of bothered about at the moment is making sure that the diamond shapes or the arrow shapes I'm putting down are going in the right direction for what the fur is going to be pointing in when I actually put it on. So this is like the tones underneath the fur. And if I've seen any dark patches in my reference picture, I'm just adding those in. So currently there's quite a dark patch underneath the eye socket. There's also quite a dark patch underneath the chin, which I've already kind of got in at the moment. There's a dark patch, like a triangle-shaped dark patch on the back of its neck. And the fur on the ears and the top of the nose is a lot shorter than it is around its neck and its face. So even where I've put a bit of fur in already, if I use the trigger on my airbrush really lightly and I've got the airbrush quite a distance away, I can still darken that area without taking out the fur texture I've already put in. Plus I've got my paint reduced down quite a bit. Background as well. Oh, a really bad hand first. Painting a picture, put the background in without getting any on my picture. So this background and the background went in first. If anyone does pop on to say hi, just write a hi in the chat section, because I think that's the only place I can tell where people are watching. Don't know if it tells me anywhere else. So just say hi. So there's a dark patch at the edge of the eye here as well, and the fur changes direction, so it starts going to the right, and then all of a sudden the fur kind of twists and heads downwards. So kind of got to do some arrows going to the right, and then arrows which change downwards. I've got 2 airbrushes on the go today because I'm going to be, it's in monochrome apart from the eye, and it's going to be a bit difficult to just keep swapping paint out, so I've gone for 2 airbrushes. So I've got my sotar and I've got my xtreme at the moment. Right, so I've put some dark splodges in. Now I'm going in with some light splodges because the area to the front of its neck is really bright. Across the brow of its eye is really bright, and its nose is really bright. And the fur down the back of its head behind its ears is also really bright. I'm still not really doing any fur detail, it's just adding the colours in splodges and little arrow shapes in the direction. Got some really interesting fur shapes going on the cheek. They kind of curve back on themselves. And the airbrush I'm using at the moment is my Sotar 2020 Slim. And it doesn't like doing lots of paint, it just likes to put out a little bit of paint, so it's kind of perfect for the highlight sections, and why I put the white in this brush and the black in the other brush, really. I can't really make this one do any kind of big details or far away spraying. It likes to be kind of close up and doing little lines. If anyone wants something really interesting to paint, find yourself a picture of a hare, because their fur detail is just so interesting compared to most other animals. When you paint like a dog or something like that, the fur is just going in one direction. But this hare seems to have like clumps of fur and it's all random. You've got like some pointing out to the sides, you've got some wiry stuff and some fluffy stuff. Makes for a nice challenge. So although I'm doing kind of little lines, I'm not actually at the moment trying to put strands of fur in. I'm just trying to get the background colours in. So if I see a clump of light fur on my reference picture, I'm trying to just kind of block that in. Fur works best if you build it up in layers, I've found. So down each edge of the ear is really bright. So yeah, this is the bit from the ear. You can see it's got really bright fur at the edge. The ears and the nose have a completely different style of fur compared to its neck and its cheeks. So I'm just building up the bright spots at the top of the nose at the moment. Again, it's not putting in the fur at the moment, it's just putting in the background colours. And this is where it helps to already have the background in, because bright areas like this, if you try to put the background in with an airbrush afterwards, tend to get a bit muddy and diluted down. So the fur down the middle of the neck here is probably this fur here, and it's really sharp and really detailed, whereas the fur to the back of its neck is quite blurry. I think hares must molt. It almost looks like this is like a downy underlayer, and this is a wiry fur layer over the top. So it's going to be really interesting to put in with the airbrush later on. Right, back to black. So this is the extreme, and this is really good at doing big bold lines, but also really good at doing little detail lines too. So last week when I did my live, I was using the cartridge paper. This week I'm using an airbrushing paper, so it's almost like a thin plastic. But it means that the paints aren't sinking into it, which is great. Especially if you're using cartridge paper and you're trying to do fur, when the cartridge paper soaks up the lines, it tends to distort some of the detail. You just can't see it as well. Right, I'm going to start concentrating on some of the detail to the cheek. So one of the things when you do fur is you don't want to just do line, 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 or dagger stroke, dagger stroke, dagger stroke in the same direction, like that. I don't know if you can see that. I've got another piece of paper. So yeah, you don't want to do lines all in the same direction. You want to kind of vary it up. So I'll tend to do one or two going one direction and then another one point in a different direction. And normally have a little bit of a curve to them. And also vary the length of them as well. Tends to help. So I showed that. So you've got, like, that's when you vary it, and that's if you just kept them all going the same direction. So for it to look like fur, it needs to be a bit more varied. Anything in nature is not normally uniformed. So fur's not uniformed. Foliage isn't uniform, so you'll not get like leaves all pointing in the same direction, or blades of grass. I do blades of grass exactly the same way as I do in fur. And I'm not trying to copy down every single strand I can see on the piece of paper either. I just kind of keep glancing across and looking at the general direction and the style of fur it is. So the fur here is quite coarse. It's not as coarse as the stuff on his neck, but it's quite coarse fur. It's not the downy stuff, and it's kind of flowing and changing direction. So I'm just making sure that I've got it the right length and the right direction, and then I just do my own strands of fur. If you're really good at realism, you could probably put more strands of fur in exactly how they look, but yeah, I'm just going for somewhere near looking like the photo. Hopefully you can tell it's a hare or a rabbit. I'd be happy if people can tell it's a rabbit. So I put my strands of fur in, and now I'm going over from a bit more of a distance and just darkening off the shape. So there's a lot of these arrow shapes to the clumps in the rabbit's fur and the hare's fur. So I'm just going to try and get those in just by darkening over the top of what I've already airbrushed on. So one of the things I'm starting to do on the ears is I'm picking out the interesting bits. So although I'm not following the fur pattern exactly or the shape of everything to the exact T, I'm trying to pick out bits which I know are going to build the character and just make it look interesting. So this ear especially, this hare's obviously been in quite a few fights and it's got chunks of ear missing. So I want to make sure I capture that. And if you're doing anything like an animal portrait or a pet portrait, it's really good to look for those little details and pull those out and make sure that they'll stand out in your picture, because those are the bits people see and remember and what makes it unique to that animal. rather than it just being any dog or any cat or any rabbit. It's unlikely there's going to be other rabbits which have this exact same Tudor pier. One of the things I'm trying not to do is try not to go too dark too soon, because then I have to take it back to the base layers. I'm also not trying to throw too much of a fur layer over the top. So imagine there's like hundreds and hundreds of little pieces of fur which build up each section. You're never going to get all of them in with the airbrush, but you want to give the effect that they're all there. And the blotchy layer I do underneath helps give the effect, when I go over it with a fur layer, that there must be more fur in certain areas because the blotchiness makes you think, oh, it's casting a shadow. Back to the fur on the nose, it's really, really fine little, like whiskery type hair. So I'm doing really, really short dagger strokes and just really keeping an eye on the reference picture and making sure that the fur I'm putting down is travelling in the right direction. And again, you don't want this bit to look too uniform, because if you did lots of little dots all in the same direction, it would look a bit too uniform, and everything in nature is a bit more random than uniform. keep coming back to these areas here in front of the ear on my reference picture because they're quite dark. There's quite a contrasting fur line of dark fur, bright fur, dark fur, and then bright arrow-shaped fur in front of it. So this is a really downy fur, but has some quite wiry bits on the edge of it. And all this fur in this almost triangle section of its neck here is quite dark. And even though I've got sections now, quite a few sections of brighter patches and the darker patches, as I'm putting the fur lines in, I am making sure that if I'm using the dark colour for the darker areas of fur, that I do go over some of the light patches as well, because you wouldn't just have a complete clump of dark fur and then a complete divide and a complete clump of white fur. It kind of merges into it a little bit. So you do want the occasional dark strands in your light sections and light strands in your dark sections. I'm also starting to bring the fur, which you see through the light, into the picture now, so the bits which wisp off the main body of the hare. And that's why it's good to have the background already painted. quite a lot of wispy fur down the front of his neck here, but a lot of it is in the brighter colour. So I'm going to put in a little bit of a dark base to it so that when I build the light colour over the top, it shows a bit better. I normally like to have music on when I paint fur. I tend to find that I'll spray the fur lines to the direction of the beat of the music. I don't know if anybody else listens to music as they paint. If you do, let me know in the comments. I'm going to try and get more of the fur on the nose in. This fur's in little tiny pointy clumps because that's where the whiskers come out of, and there's like a dark spot for every whisker. And again, I'm not trying to paint every single spot in the exact place I can see it on the reference photo, but I'm just trying to get enough in to represent what I can see on the picture. When I do these, I tend to have my airbrush really almost sideways to the paper and then spray across, and it sprays like a little V-shaped spot. So rather than doing it straight onto the paper where you'd get like a perfectly round circle, I spray it sideways to the paper and I get a little like elongated round circle instead. So that's as much of the black layer I want to put on. So it's back to the white layer again. So I'm just picking out really bright spots, tips of fur, making sure that this colour is helping show the direction of the fur. Starting to build up the shape of the eye as well now. The trick to doing eyes is to remember that they are 3D and that you have a lens over the top. So the pupil and, is it the iris, the colour of the eye, sits back, and it's the clear lens which gives you the eye shape. So you want to kind of be able to put in the reflections of that and remember kind of the curved shape of it. Because if you don't get the reflections going over the top of the black bit of the pupil, your eye will look really flat. With eyes, it's definitely one of those ones where you draw what you see and not what you think you should see. So I'm going to paint the eye in a bright yellow colour because that's what it is on my reference photo. But I'm going to use like a transparent to do that. So I'm putting in really bright streaks, and I'll go back in with a darker colour as well and just shadow some of the streaks off in the colour of the eye, so that you get a bit of definition, because it's not just one colour. I think the sotar, when I'm spraying with the sotar, it's a bit more difficult to see on camera because it just puts such a small amount of paint down. But it's kind of what you want when you're building up the lighter layers with a really reduced paint, really thinly added. You can always do more layers, you can't, it's really difficult to take the layers away. the ear fur is the same as the nose fur. It's the I put the dots in, the elongated dots for the where the whiskers come from on the nose, but I'm now just going to go over in the light colour and just put all the fur in, or even over the top of those, because they should still show through. It just helps give it some texture. So I'm going to build some of this fur up on the back of the neck, which is quite dark fur, but there are quite a few light strands through it. They're just not very sharp, so it's quite muted. So I'm just going to try and use the airbrush from quite a distance, so I don't get any really sharp lines. fur on the back of his head as well is also quite fluffy and not very defined, and really light coloured. So I've already got quite a lot of fur detailed up. I'm going to use the dark colour in here, which is almost a black, but it's not. It's more like a really dark grey. To pull out a few more of the details in here. I'm also going to go back into the eye and just pull out some shadows, and around the ear, and just pull out the really dark areas for now. Can you see the fur detail if you're online? Can you see kind of the different sections? I don't know if you can really see it on the camera. I hope you can. So what do the comments say? Picture looks good so far. Oh, that's good to know. I'm not sure I'll finish it tonight. I'm probably going to do probably about another 20 minutes. But I'll finish it at some point during the week after the live, and post up a picture of how it looks. It's just difficult in an hour or an hour and a half to be able to get all the detail you want in one of these pictures. So obviously the more layers you put in and the more detail you put in, the more realistic it looks, especially with fur. Keep reducing the paint down because I don't want this layer to be very bold at all. I want to let the layers underneath show through as well. And the inks I use are quite pigmented, so when you're doing the really detailed bits, they do need kind of reducing down quite a bit. So for the eye, what I'm doing is just adding in some darker areas. So when I put the transparent over the top, it gives it a more textured look, because it's not just one plain colour. I'm also adding some of the shadows along the top, which are cast by the eyelashes, which aren't painted on yet. But it means that I can put some fine white highlights for eyelashes in. Because yeah, even animals have eyelashes. And they'll cast a shadow. There's also a darker line of fur just underneath the eye, which is where the fur meets the skin. So I'm going to put that in. Dark line under the eye without trying to make it look like it's got eyeliner on. Just putting some of the dark fur in, even in like the light spots. I'll just put an occasional strand of dark fur, just because it wouldn't all be one colour. And it helps it blend into the other sections as well. Another thing about eyes is you tend to get like a light spot in the pupil, so it's never all one black colour. You normally get a line along the curvature of the lens and also some light spots. If you want to make an eye look a bit more realistic, always put a line across for the curvature of the lens and then a couple of light spots. You'll see that done in even stuff like anime and things like that. They'll always do that as well. to about an hour and 20 since I started painting. I'm definitely not going to finish this tonight. There's still quite a lot of layers to do. So what I'm going to do is just do a little bit more fur around the face and put the colour in the eye so you can see the effect of the monochrome drawing and then the pop of colour. It's kind of one of my favourite things to do at the moment. I've done quite a few paintings like that. I'm just spraying from a distance just to add some of the darker colours, but so that it doesn't kind of overpower all the layers I've been doing with fur pattern. I haven't really done a lot of detail at all to the ears, but the ears are so cool. Can't wait to get back to this tomorrow and put all the detail into the ears. Right, so I'll leave the fur for now and I'll go on to the eye. So the eye's kind of an amber colour, but it's got a bit of green in there as well. So I'm going to start with a bright yellow ink. Which is going to be way too bright for the eye colour I actually want, but I can add some colours over the top. So yeah, that yellow was a bit too bright, so I'm just going to tone it down or change it to more of an amber colour. There's a bit of orange. It's really hard to mix colours in the pot or the sotar slim. There we go, it's a bit more amber. But there is definitely, on the reference photo, as you can possibly see here, definitely green to the top and down this side. So I'm going to mix up a greeny colour. So yeah. So yeah, at first glance you kind of look at the eye and you go, oh, that's that's yellow, but it's not. It's got a bit of orange in there. It's got a bit of green in there. And if you want it to look a bit more realistic, you've got to find those colours and put them in. So I'll just put a couple of highlights over the top of this and the eye colour, and then I'll call that a night for this slide, I think. So basically I want to make sure that the highlight to the curve of the lens is bright and the light spots on the eye are bright, and just tone down a couple of places in the eye so it's not all one uniform colour. Right, so I'll call that a night for tonight. So we've got quite a bit of this done. Bring it close to the camera. So there you go, you can see the eye's got all the colours in it. The fur, I've got most of the background layers in. Still got quite a few of the stronger strokes to put in, and also a lot of the highlights still to go in. So yeah, I'll do that tomorrow, and then I'll probably post up a picture of what it looks like finished. So there you go. Thank you everyone who joined and everyone who watches the live back. I hope there's enough tips in there for you. If you've got any questions about how to do fur, just add them into the community tab section, and yeah, I'll answer them for you. So yeah, bye.